Today we will be looking over 10 different YC startups in the summer 2026 cohort. I picked 10 random startups. Goal is to just eventually make it through the whole summer cohort, and then we can look at previous years or previous cohorts and just analyze just based off of difficulty, novelty, and impact what just my initial views of that startup is. The goal of this is to be constructive, and for one, I want to learn more about what kind of startups are being funded by YC. I think I saw something like 54% of YC startups in the past year were all AI related, so it'd be interesting to see where the differences are and go further into that. So let's get into the video. First things first, it's just going over the tier list, right? All of these startups are exceptional. They were accepted into YC. YC is a very difficult accelerator to get into, and so all of these startups have achieved something noteworthy, and one receiving an F or D or C, or that doesn't mean anything negative. It is purely off of the metrics that I set and a read through of their page on Y Combinator. I haven't done further research into the startup. I haven't taken into account the founders, nor have I looked into the progress they have made so far, right? It's just purely off of potential impact of the idea, the difficulty of the idea, and the novelty of the idea. So let's get into it. First one, right? First one on my list is Aero, right? Aero is working on a rocket cargo delivery in contested environments. So my understanding of this is they're using rocketry to deliver payloads into either military sites or places of, such as for humanitarian aid, whatever it may be. They're using rocketry to deliver goods, which I think it's going to be crazy hard just technically, but also within geopolitics, sending rockets to deliver things will always be something difficult to navigate with other countries. And so for that reason, I think Aero gets an S tier from me. Difficulty, uniqueness, I think they score maybe a 9.2 in how novel of an idea it is in this. I think most ideas have been seen in some form or factor, specifically around technology. If you've read any sci-fi or consumed any sci-fi content, you would understand that most of our technology has been seen and perceived in AI, or not AI, in books, movies, literature, sci-fi. And so I think it's pretty novel. To my knowledge, there's not a company that does something like this out there already, or do I know of a company that's working on something like this already? Something similar that I know of is there's a startup that delivers blood and other contents to hospitals in places where it's difficult to transport medical equipment. And so this seems like the extreme version of that, where one's doing drones, the other went one above, and they're using rockets to do so. My next S tier would have to be, let's see, I think Molagri. Isn't that the word Biden keeps saying, or used to say? It's a bunch of Molagri. I like the name. Molagri's making a biopesticide designed to target pests and insects while sparing pollinators and beneficial insects. That sounds difficult. Anything with manipulation of biology is going to be a very difficult hard tech problem, and I think in the potential impact that they could have with this, it could reshape how we view agriculture. Novelty, I'd score it lower on novelty than Aero, but all in all, I think on impact and difficulty alone, it deserves an S tier. So let's see, Integrated Industries is building a counter-drone interceptor and defense system. To my understanding, they're trying to bring back manufacturing of drone and drone components strictly to the US and allied countries, which I'm all for. I know there's another startup that's part of the Teal Fellows that is aiming to make 1 million drones strictly using US components, and this seems to be overlapping a bit with that, so it's lower on that novelty. I think there was a large wake up during COVID on our infrastructure, and our ability to make things has degraded so much, and so there's a large effort to bring that back to some extent. And I think integrated technologies, while I don't know too much about the defense sector, I think this has a lot of potential, and I think on its impact, I could place it B tier, but that's where I'm like, anything war related can have a large impact. They're not specifically building anything new, they're just improving our operation and our processes for creating drone weaponry and other things, which I guess in that sense they are making a new type of drone that they manufacture and design themselves. So it's a difficult one. I might have to drop it to B. Let's see what's next on the list. Prescience is trying to build a employer healthcare benefits with AI, and they're aiming to save employers around 20 to 50% on healthcare while offering better benefits. That sounds pretty awesome. I think that that'll be something that a lot of companies would purchase, and I think the creation of it will have the difficulties of navigating the healthcare industry, and that will be difficult, but the technicals of building the software and managing that, I put that at like a B to C range. And I might change these going further into the video. For now, we'll leave it at B. Novelty. I think it's one that novelty brings this down. I feel like it was bound to happen, right? We found a new puzzle piece, which is AI, and we're trying to fit AI into every different industry. And so it being brought into healthcare makes it feel like it's not very novel, but it's going to be difficult. Maybe 7.4 in difficulty. And then impact, I think it could have a pretty large impact. I think there'll be a lot of resistance within the system, so it could be a B or a C. I'd have to learn more about what they're doing. Let's see. Cova control seat. What does control seat do? Control seat is building a modern CADA software to monitor and control factory hardware, replace legacy systems. I like that. To my understanding, they're working on taking all the software that was written in the past 20, 30, 40 years and upgrading that to still manage the hardware that exists today. And that's a difficult process, and I know there's a whole industry around just updating software of older machines and technology. Is that a C or D? Honestly, it gets a D or a C. I think it's not a sexy startup in any sense, but I think it's a necessary one. I think it make for a great business, and if it's scalable, and to some extent a lot of these different businesses have similar technologies, similar software being run, and so I feel like there can be some optimization there. So I'd be interested to learn more about the problems they're seeing and how they're solving it, and like what they would do to scale. I don't think it's ground shake or earth shattering in any sense. The industry it's in, I think there will be people who have a career in restoration of software and older hardwares, but scale of something like Aero or Molagri, I think it's lower on that impact. I think C is a good spot for it. Let's see what's next. Whitespace. Whitespace is an AI operating system for wholesale distribution. Company systems in boxes, builds a live model of the business and uses AI agents for inventory planning, customer support, and order entry. I think similar to controlled seat, I don't think it's a sexy business in any way, but it makes sense that this startup exists because it's a need within the industry, and AI can solve that. Building infrastructure and connections, and concern is, does something like this just get built in within a company like Amazon? I assume already has their equivalent of Whitespace or any other larger manufacturing organization, but have to learn more to see whether that's actually a feature risk or it has its own unique moat that allows it to stand above. I don't think it's ground shaking in any large way. I think it's a shift or a level up for the industry as a whole. Let's see what's next. Truffle. Oh, and for novelty for Whitespace, I don't think it's novel similar to Control Seat. I think people who work in this industry, as soon as they heard about AI, probably wanted something like this to exist. So I think there will be a lot of technical difficulty in producing this, maybe at a 6.7. But the Truffle, like the name, it's a very fun name. Truffle, building a AI native back of house operating system for restaurants, including inventory, procurement, scheduling, prep, and menu operations. Using computer vision, voice AI, forecasting, and agents for restaurant workflow. Again, I think Truffle probably gets a D. I think specifically for the computer vision and voice AI, I think that takes it out of feature risk because it sounds like there's some hardware included, so that helps keep it from being swallowed up overnight. I think food industry is a hard industry to play in, but be solving a good problem. I know anything to the efficiency of a restaurant helps, and so just be worried of something like DoorDash or any of these other software tech companies already in the food space absorbing similar technologies or taking the other infrastructure they already have in place there and applying a similar algorithm or technology to Truffle. Let's see, we talk about Cova. Cova is an AI native home care agency licensed in Michigan. An AI tool that helps home care, works in the home care market. So they're an agency that works with Medicare, long-term care insurance, private pay, caregiver payments, and family caregiver support. So they would be doing the work of managing caregivers and using AI to assist in that processing of the caregiving, right? Cut down on overhead. I think that goes into my D tier. I think building an agency and building a business around it makes sense. Part of me wonders if this is gonna just be the industry standard for and so that's where it's a little hard to say whether or not it's a feature risk, and like they sell the software to all other caregiving organizations maybe, but if they're building it from the ground up and they can make caregiving easier, could be a very profitable business, but I don't see it being a ground shaking business. I think the industry is already heading to the optimization of the industry, so Cova gets a D rank. I think it's a great business. I love that they're improving the caregiving industry. I think as we continue to age, our healthcare system will need the optimization. The Machine Zero. Zero gives developers persistent cloud VMs from command line with tools for agents pre-installed. YC describes it as cloud VMs with CPU, RAM, optional GPU, static IPs, HTTP endpoints, pre-installed agent tools. Well, there's a lot there, but to my understanding, they're providing agents virtual machines, which then allow them to run fully outside of the sandbox, to my understanding. But my concern with this and why I'm leaving it in the futures risk is that something like Azure or Google could incorporate this into their cloud service, and Machine Zero is dead in the water. I think it's a great idea. I think it's very useful. I think Zero could get bought out for a good amount of money, profitable to YC as well as the founder. But do I think it's going to be a groundbreaking startup? Do I think it's a difficult technical issue? And do I think it's a very novel issue? Like, scores low on those in my mind. It's technically more difficult than I understand it to be, but I think the industry would head to there pretty soon anyway. We will leave Machine Zero where it is. Last but not least is Tsenta. What do you do? Matches people with jobs, optimizes profiles, and applies automatically. I like that. I think in the job market we're currently at, I think a lot of people would be willing to try this out to see if it could land them a job, because anything that's automated, because employers are using automated software to weed out resumes, so fighting AI with AI, pretty awesome. But I also think the industry's already heading that way. It's pretty low on the novelty, but on impact, I think the impact is there. I think if they could somehow, because like could apply this feature, and Tsenta could be out of the running, but while they're still existing, I think if their processes software is better than what or Glassdoor or Indeed can do, I think could do pretty well. But I think the reach that these other companies have over Tsenta is just really hard to overcome. But I like the business. I like all of these businesses, I think, or startups. I think they have a lot of potential to be profitable, and that's probably why they're all in Y Combinator. I do think some of these have risks, and they're probably gonna get bought out by a larger company and be implemented in as a feature within that whole organization. But yeah, we just went over the 10 different startups in this summer's YC batch. Pretty good group, a lot of AI as expected, but overall pretty good distribution of I'd like to learn more, and if I end up learning more about some of these startups, and might toss them into any future of Y Combinator startups, because their cohort size is pretty large, and so there are a lot more within the summer cohort that I haven't gotten a chance to look at. So I'll probably make another video like this if there's interest from you guys. So if you did like the video, please leave a like, comment, follow. Let me know what you think. Do you think I should have ranked something differently? Let's talk in the comment section. But yeah, for watching the video, stay tuned.